been a lot of Avengers. So much so that some of the various card-holding members have just been kinda lost in the sauce and forgotten by both the comics and even some of the fans. Of all the Forgotten Avengers, Stingray, Walter Newell, feels like the biggest upset for me. He's actually an incredibly cool character. The problem is he just got kind of overshadowed. I feel like ocean-based heroes already have it hard, so when they have to compete with other wet boys for the spotlight, and one of them is Namor the Submariner, they just get kind of the short end of the stick. Dr. Walter Newell was a brilliant oceanographer and engineer. He supervised the construction of a domed undersea city with plans to grow food for mankind, and he also constructed an incredibly advanced undersea suit that he initially used to try and capture Namor. Now, he's worked with the Avengers and the Fantastic Four many times over the years, mainly when the teams needed an undersea expert, and he even ran the now defunct Avengers Hydro base, but like I said, he just kinda gets overshadowed by Namor, which is a shame because Namor is kind of a huge jerk. But who better for a list of Forgotten Avengers than a hero who literally goes by the name the Forgotten One? The Forgotten One is one of the Eternals, who themselves are already a bit of a niche group in Marvel Comics. As an Eternal living on Earth for thousands and thousands of years, he has gone by many different names, with his most well-known being taken after the ancient Mesopotamian hero Gilgamesh. While many Eternals have also been Avengers, Gilgamesh is simultaneously one of the strongest and one of the most easily forgotten. Unfortunately, he was only part of a small 4-person Avengers team consisting of Steve Rogers as just the captain, Mr. Fantastic, and Invisible Woman. The quartet didn't last long at all, and he was forced to leave the team due to an injury sustained in battle with Blastar. And he's just been kind of, well, forgotten. But talking about Gilgamesh does bring up another hero who people forget was an Avenger, Reed Richards. Mr. Fantastic is obviously extremely well known for being the leader of the Fantastic Four. That's his thing. Other than having a relatively lame power, which he has to have to make up for being super smart, and I guess for being the worst family man you have ever met. Reed is a huge name in Marvel, along with the other 3 members who make up Marvel's first family. But being such a big name, it does kind of make sense that he would be an Avenger as well. Reed would join up with the group during one of its roster shakeups, becoming a member of the Forgotten lineup that included Gilgamesh. But like we said before, that group didn't last long, and he hasn't really been an Avenger since, unless you count his time in the New Avengers inspired by the Illuminati, which I certainly do not. Now, unfortunately, from time to time, characters are created to add some diversity to a team of heroes, but unfortunately, often those characters aren't given the most well-rounded characterization. Living Lightning, or Miguel Santos, is one such character. After first being turned into a being of living energy and after a brief, unwilling foray into crime, Miguel joined the Avengers. While he occasionally serves with the team, Miguel gave up active membership to concentrate on his studies. Now, despite that, for a time, Miguel manned the Avengers Deep Space Monitoring Station alongside Quasar, but his most damning moment came when Miguel was invited to attend a meeting of the Great Lakes Avengers, or the GLA, as they wanted to recruit him to join the team. Now, Miguel mistakenly thought that the GLA actually stood for the Gay and Lesbian Association and accidentally came out to Flatman. Many people found this to be in poor taste, and while Living Lightning has appeared and worked with the Avengers a few times since, he was just never on the forefront since that moment. The Avengers are fun, and for me, it's because a lot of the time, their heroes could easily be villains, and some of their villains could easily become heroes. And the best part is that totally happens. Jock Duquesne, or Swordsman, is an excellent example. Jock was the one who had taught Hawkeye how to fight, and just like Hawkeye, he started off as a villain to the team. Being a dastardly rogue with a great mustache, he was obviously a little morally dubious and found himself being expelled from the team only to rejoin later on. And then he would eventually pass away and come back as a spirit, which is when he married Mantis, as a ghost. His roguish nature, plus the fact that he's kind of just a dude with a sword, proved to make him an Avenger that is oft forgot. Heather Douglas is an incredibly interesting character, which is why it's kind of a shame that she is often forgotten about. At least her time as an Avenger definitely is. Heather and her family were wiped out by Thanos, and while her father would go on to become Drax the Destroyer, Heather went on to become one of the the most powerful human-born telepaths in existence. She gained this power after she was taken in by Mentor, who is the father of Thanos, and she trained under the Shaolin monks of Titan, who empowered her to unlock the potential of her mind. Now with that power, she was able to mentally control an entire planet of beings who were constantly at war with each other, bringing peace to said planet. She has been in a psionic stalemate with the Sorcerer Supreme, and she's even straight up took the life of a clone of Thanos who at the time had even greater mental powers than Professor X. The problem is that Moondragon has been both a hero and a villain throughout her times in comics, and she has had a very conflicted past with Marvel's premier superhero team. Jack Hart was the son of a brilliant scientist, a scientist that created the ridiculously efficient liquid sci-fi fuel called Zero Fluid, that in a tragic comic book backstory was exposed to Jack and gave him his awesome but difficult to control abilities. Importantly, he was also part alien, with his mother hailing from the Contraxian race. Now due to the cellular mutation that took place after his Zero Fluid exposure, Jonathan Hart is now able to produce pink concussive energy beams and blasts from his hands and body, taking up the incredibly clever name of Jack of Hearts. Now despite having the wildest costume on the team, he quickly became known for his erratic use of his explosive powers and for his incredibly explosive temper. He worked with the Avengers on several missions, but never managed to master his powers. That, coupled with the character becoming increasingly isolated, led to Jack detonating himself. And that's the end of the story. Now the Sandman is a super interesting character. As most people know, he has been a longtime foe of Spider-Man, and a big one at that, being one of the founding members of the Sinister Six. However, never quite comfortable being a bad guy, the Sandman eventually reformed, even gaining a full presidential pardon. This brought on his probationary period with the Avengers, kicking off with the controversial Avengers number 329. Now despite actually proving a valuable asset to the team, he left the group not too long after joining. Sandman has generally remained a villain, but he maintains friendships with heroes including the Thing, and has been known to stop other villains from taking people's lives. After his stint with the Avengers, he would join up with the Silver Sable's Wild Pack, a mercenary group, before going back to a life of crime properly. Maria de Guadalupe Santiago, aka Silverclaw, was a member of the Kemikeri in the Central American nation of Costa Verde. The Kemikeri ancestors worshipped the ancient gods until the arrival of the Spaniards. Maria's father, Jaime Santiago, was a Kemikeri villager who studied the ancient beliefs and pantheon, and after visiting one of the ancient banished gods of his people, he came back to his village with Silverclaw in tow. Now Silverclaw had the ability to shapeshift into various different forms. The Avengers butler, Edwin Jarvis, saw her village on a television piece about a children's charity and sponsored the local orphanage that Silverclaw grew up in, eventually having her come to New York, where she used her powers to stop a group of extremists, which got her onto the Avengers. Unfortunately, Silverclaw was created by Kurt Busiek and George Perez during their legendary 90s run on the Avengers, so when her creators moved on from the series, she kind of fell to the wayside completely as well. And finally, you would be forgiven for not knowing the hero Triathlon. It's just not a great superhero name in my opinion, but you might actually recognize this hero by his other horrible superhero name, 3D Man. But this isn't even the original 3D Man. Delroy Garrett Jr. is actually a disgraced Olympic athlete who decided to return to religion. He became the spokesperson of the Triune or Triune Understanding, a religious cult whose leader gave Delroy the powers of 3D Man. This cult's leader essentially used public pressure to make the Avengers recruit Delroy, who then had a bit of a tough time fitting in at Avengers Mansion. Eventually, Triathlon decided to abandon the Triune Understanding and even stop the leader from becoming a god, but then Triathlon left the Avengers. He did briefly return to act as an instructor for Tony Stark's 50-state initiative, and he popped up again as one of Dr. Doom's Avengers, but I mean, anyone who cared about either of those events really didn't care about Triathlon's involvement in said events. But that's all I got. Thank you guys so much for watching today on Top 10 Nerd. My name is Adam Andrews. I will catch you all on the flippy flop, and even if I don't, stay safe and peace out, nerds. Avengers assemble! There's a fart brewing down here somewhere. I feel it coming. Alright, here we go. As an eternal living on Earth, I can't talk. Being taken after the ancient Mesopotamian. I mean, other than having a relatively lame power, which he has. Okay, I'm gonna do it again. He became the spokesperson of the Triune?